Hello again, friends. It's Krusty Old Crow back again to do a second part to my hot mic of the day. Yeah, it's 29 Jan. I've been watching some YouTube and I've been doing some thinking. And guys, I'm going to expand on something here that I think it's worth looking at. So I got three things on this agenda, just like the other. I'm going to talk about if you listen to what Hasbro says about the company of late, they claim, and Viper Island quotes them, or not quotes them, but uses the term a lot. And so does Hasbro. When you listen to their interviews, their reps use this term a lot, and I'm going to go into these terms. Pivot. Pivot is a term I am going to go into as regards to Hasbro and the changes in direction that they talk about, which Viper Island just covered. And I'm just going to give you the synopsis. If you watch that video, it's all about like Hasbro coming out and saying, listen, there were points in this line where we were going in one direction, but the consumer market and the fan feedback and the complaints and the quality and things like that caused us to pause and change directions completely and abandon us concepts and things like that. They cited a bunch of examples of where that affected them in the line. They use sci-fi as a big example in a lot of that conversation. And guys, the reason I wanted to focus on that is because this is another clue as to what to expect out of Hasbro in there, because the criticism that Hasbro has already done most of the designs for the entire line that they plan on producing, and that they could end the line reasonably soon. The word pivot and changes in directions opens that entire premise of them ending anytime soon. It takes it off the table as I see it, in my opinion. In the Crow's opinion, I'm also going to go over all the available options just that are already out there from the original 82 to 94. Or was it 82 to 94? Let's get that right before I keep saying it. 82 to 94, I want to say. Yeah, 82 to 94. I'm going to tell you all the lines available to just G.I. Joe characters as far as teams and units. I won't even bother going into Cobra. I'll just touch on Cobra, but I mean, you'll see it. And then as we go, I'm going to keep showing you some stuff that I'm doing on Steeler from where I left it. It's been a little bit, but I got sidetracked with, domestic crap, getting ready for surgery crap. Like I was telling you guys, I am going for minor surgery tomorrow, so I don't think you're going to see me here tomorrow. But once I'm all healed up, you know me, I'll be back at her. So don't forget this stuff, the like, share, subscribe, help me build this channel up to whatever it's going to become. Great. But please just enjoy yourselves and participate in the comments. Really, this is just a channel about having fun with Joe. We talk about Joe. We talk mainly about the G.I. Joe Classified. Yeah, I'm doing conversion stuff. Yeah, I have a lot to say on the subject of Joe as a veteran. But really, we're just talking about Joe. So the word pivot, pardon me while I paint while we do this. A lot of you guys, I know you know what the word pivot means. Like it's taught in martial arts. It's taught in a lot of different subjects. To pivot means to turn away or to turn or reposition, right? In place. Sure. But in business, where I learned this, I'm not a business guy. I'm a veteran guy. But I mentioned in one of my videos recently, I did do an entrepreneurial course for small business for veterans recently in Dalhousie University. It was a week-long crash course. It was really long, though, for like full days. And when we talk about the term pivot, really what the course was about veterans trying to come up with their own business ideas and what roles you were trying to sell to, what needs out there were you trying to fill. And what they told you is that usually what ends up happening is at some point in a business's conception and the early points of the business, a lot of the failure happens when a company or a person starting a business doesn't know when to pivot on their idea, whatever their goal, their desired state of that was so fixated in their head that despite all indications that there was a problem, they'd ignore the impact of that problem and keep trying to make it work. And that's why, one of the reasons why things fail. So they're always, when you work, be prepared to pivot. So I talk about it as a conversion artist, and I talk about it with other guys that, well, a few other people I've talked about this with, about how that applies to when you're building a project, like be it a diorama or something so simple as a conversion or just trying new things. You always got to be prepared to pivot. And Hasbro was saying that their company is always ready to pivot. And I see it. Yeah, when you get a bad idea, this is why we're getting, new weapon resins. The Falcone complaint went right to heart. Quality control issues got really looked at, and that's why certain glasses are no longer separate. They're probably going to be put to the head, i.e. with the new torch concept, it sounds like. It's whatever efforts they can justify, right? They are pivoting. So let's talk about the new lines, like I said in the last video, that they could pivot to. It's not going to be the end of them, guys. If you're already sick of repaints just because of what happened with Tunnel Rat, I got bad news for you. It's a long road ahead. I am holding in my hand no less than 20 sublines that the G.I. Joe Classified series has readily opened to them because they've been there before. The characters exist. It's just time to revisit and do what they do over at Hasbro. Make money, money, make money, money. Take money, money, take money, money. Because I'm not even getting into Cobra sublines. I'll get into the honorable mentions, and then I'll tell you about the 20 some odd sublines here that they could do. I'll just go over their quick roster, remind you of them, and then you'll see what I'm seeing here. So it'll just be fun. I'll do that while I'm painting, but just really quick, the difference I found with the Cobra sublines and the Joe sublines. I won't get into the Vipers and the Bat variants, but most of, like all of those things, they start really jumping the shark with the Bats and the Vipers and assorted monstrosities, Mindbender's creations, I'm assuming, throughout the late 80s and into the 90s till the end of the series, right? But as far as their sub-teams like Python Patrol, we've already gotten everything for Python Patrol. They dealt with that quick, right? But with Joe, they haven't. They still have more Tiger Force. They still have more Night Force. We still have a lot more Joe to go besides the regular G.I. Joe and Tiger Force Night Force selection, guys. And I'm going to show you what it is. Some of you are already going, oh, I know he's going to mention Sergeant Slaughter. Well, of course I am. He shows up twice in the friggin' list, at least. So honorable mentions. Let's get these guys out of the way so we don't have to go into troop builders too much, okay? Anniversary soldiers. All right, we already got the action soldier and the, what is it, the action sailor? Is it the sailor or the Marine? I always get it mixed up. Anyways, we know two more are coming, the pilot and the Marine, or the action sailor, whichever the other one isn't. I'm pretty sure it's Navy diver or Marine diver. So, yeah, either way, we're going to get the sailor and the pilot, I think. But I'm not going to make mention to, or I'm making honorable mention to Sonic fighters. In the last death throes of the original O-Ring 82 to 94 design, they had some figures that you could press a little button and they'd be, let's go, Joe. And, you know, little talking figures, cheap little, remember early fob toys? It was even before all that. So, honorable mention of those, because they could. Hasbro could do a talking action figure. It would be devastating, but I mean, they could do it. But I don't think it's likely. We'll get that off the list as well. Okay? So remember, I'm not talking about Cobra. Now, some of these sublines that are with the Cobra clearly are, the sublines I mentioned, some of them have a mix of Cobra names on the roster because, like, for example, Ninja Force. I wasn't collecting Ninja Force, and I don't know if this was a point where all the ninjas were on the same team or if it was an internal battle between the figures included in Ninja Force. I don't know, didn't care to look up. but they're a subline. And Emily was saying they wanted to explore lines. So let's look at those lines. Okay. So you have your G.I. Joe regular line. That's your first line. Your regular standard Joe. The one that carried out throughout, despite any other names, any other repaints. You hopefully started off as a Joe, right? And that's what really draws most of us in my age bracket in, is seeing all the old boys club come back, right? The original 82 line, the original 86 line, the 87 line. That's what they were looking forward to, right? But we snuck in some others. We snuck in line number 2, Tiger Force. We could go finishing off the Tiger Force, right? Like if Emily's talking about Tiger Force, you can see it. So the Tiger Force roster at the time, Bazooka, Duke, Dusty Flint, who we all have, as well as Recondo. But we're still waiting on Lifeline, Roadblock, Tripwire, Frostbite, and Sky Strike, which I thought Sky Strike was a weird one because it's the Cobra Rattler repainted as the Tiger Force, but it did include the pilot. Now this was the difference between them and the next guy, right? They had a couple of vehicles that included Fig. Frostbite was included with the Tiger Force. Frostbite was included with the respective Snowcat Tiger Force style, and Sky Strike was included with the Rattler because clearly you're not going to take Wild Weasel and slap them into Tiger Force. However, Sky Strike appears to just be Ace. I don't know. Like, where I get my information from, did they get that? Was that a typo? Did they mean to put Ace from the Sky Striker? Somebody can sort me out in the comments, right? But we have other options for Tiger Force, including, Tripwire, who we just got in the regular. Recondo, we know we're getting in retro card right now, right? So, and Lifeline, I would look forward to Lifeline. Okay, Night Force. You guys know I have a bit of a grudge against Night Force, which is our third choice right now. It's a Walmart exclusive here, but it's got that appeal. They're the surveillance and counter operations, and they appear to be linked with like MI6 or British intelligence, in that we've brought in characters that weren't part of the Joe line. And Big Ben, well, Big Ben was a part of the Joe line, but originally he wasn't an action figure for Night Force. He was just his own thing. It was almost like the October Guard, just Big Ben out of nowhere, boom, right? So, and we also have new characters in Night Force, as in like Jodie's Shooter Craig, who, I would have liked to have seen her just be a standard Joe first, but they didn't do that. And then Wolf Spider, who I just got. Cool Fig, crappy loadout. Yeah. So Night Force has lots of potential, but let's go over their regular roster just to put this refresher in your head. So you had Outback, so there's a third Outback on the way, right? Crazy Legs, we know is coming with the HasLab Dragonfly. Sneak Peek is one that we haven't gotten yet, and I want to make one for sure for my End State universe there. Falcone, definitely could use another swing at Falcone. Please don't use the same head sculpt. Tunnel Rat, we've seen Tunnel Rat, and everybody's really loving their Tunnel Rats. I could see why. Psych Out is another one I desperately want to make on my own, but waiting on Psych Out. And Psych Out was a member of Night Force. Charbroil, another Flame Trooper for what few you got. Repeater, Lightfoot, Shockwave, Muskrat, Spearhead, and Max. Spearhead and Max, my goodness, I don't know what to make of them. To me, that's outside of what Joe should have as a soldier with a tactical Bobcat. But apparently, they're so effective, they made it over to Night Force, and I'm just picturing this tactical Bobcat in all black, somehow, riding in on the stealth chopper, just paralyzed with fear, tail frilled up, untouchable. But anyways, I digress. You had options. Now, you know what the difference was with Tiger Force and Night Force? I mean, they both came out. Both were different exclusives. And I mean, it looked to me like Night Force was much harder to get than Tiger Force for a lot of people. None of the vehicles, Night Force had a lot of vehicles. It was constantly a repaint of this, that, or the other thing. But it didn't come with any drivers. Tiger Force came with some drivers, and it was smaller, had less vehicles. Okay, number 4. Who else could we throw on this list of new lines that we're talking about? How about Sergeant Slaughter's Renegades, right? So that's a small subline we can do. It's easy. It's just a team of 3 for now. if you wanted to. But what was the premise? It was reformed Cobra that Slaughter was whipping into shape. So you had Mercer, Taurus, and Red Dog and Slaughter. Okay. Definitely Hasbro. Yeah, I could see Classified visiting those figures. I could definitely see that. And would they be free to invent their new characters? Yeah. Yeah, I could see that. I don't think I'll ever make my own. I might try a Mercer or a Red Dog. I might try all three at some point, but could it be a subline that could be expanded on? Possibly. I just don't think I would want them to. I think I like it with just those names. Sergeant Slaughter's Marauders is number 5 here. Sergeant Slaughter's Marauders, of course, consists of Barbecue, who we already have in the Classified line, Footloose, who we don't yet have a regular for, and I could see him coming out as a Sergeant Slaughter's Marauder first. It's not the first time they've done it, or Condal. Low Light Mutton Junkyard, who just came out, Spirit, and then again Slaughter, right? So Spirit, Mutton Junkyard, and Low Light. How would you feel about repaints to join that line? I mean, I love my Spirit figure. It's one of the favorites. Mutton Junkyard definitely came up there. Low Light is a great figure, but in that tactical gray, I don't really like the Marauder colors on these guys in such uniformity. I don't know what they're going to do with that. I hope they do something with it, because Barbecue I can take. That's all armor plating. But these guys, if they all follow that same set, I hope the modernization has a twist. Number 6, guys, Battle Force 2000. Hear me out. It was a line. It was a line from back in 1987, and it was a small one, and it didn't do well. But it was an avenue Joe went down, and they could go, you just get rid of the 2000, or maybe they don't. Maybe it just means something different. Maybe the entire premise of what they're there for, and that's what I'm saying about a lot of these sublines. Whatever they were created to be in the 80s and the 90s, that can still apply. Tiger Force, Night Force, sure. But whatever they need to be now, so long as it's a good shift in lot and explanation, and you do your modernization, but you do what you do, Hasbro, and you keep making things. I could see Battle Force 2000 being a character, well, at least one character popping up out of there, because they had their own. They had Avalanche, Blaster, Blocker, Dodger, Knockdown, and Maverick. Okay, remember 87. This was very much a push of Air Force and potential after the movie Top Gun and all this other crap was barraging us. Maverick, the name Maverick, was bound to come up in Joe at some point, right? Number 7, Ninja Force. We already see it, but did we get Ninja Force, or did we get the other Ninja Force, which was Ninja something? I'll get to it later, but Ninja Force is not the same as the other ninja group, but actually I have it down here as the same anyways. We're blending 2 ninja units here. So yeah, it's Dice, Slice, Dojo, Nunchuck, who we have, Storm Shadow, which we had. It was the winter variant. That was actually from all this as well. Red Ninja, Jabang, the Jinzu, which came with a vehicle. And pardon me if I mispronounce Asian names just based off reading them and trying to say them phonetically. Banzai, Bushido, and Scarlet. Snake Eyes, Night Creeper, and Zartan. Now, I realize some of those are Cobra, but that was what I was saying earlier, right? So Ninja Force, still a lot of room to maneuver there, isn't there? Here's a good one, guys, and I mentioned it last video. I'll get October Guard out of the way. October Guard is something I said we should explore again. And I know that the current tensions between Russia, Ukraine, and the entire world is tensions. But the October Guard were as much about Russia as G.I. Joe was about the state of Wisconsin. Okay, there was a lot more out there. It's not the same kind of army from not the same kind of country. So the regional differences, that shouldn't preclude us to be doing October Guard. Our toys need to be outside of such nonsense as our own real stupid politics. Anyway, Sky Patrol is where I wanted to go with this one. I can definitely see Sky Patrol coming. I could see it being a new subline after some vehicles get out. And the reason being, guys, is because they've said that pretty much at Hasbro is they don't really have an intention to do a lot of naval vessels or aquatic marine stuff like we did back in the day. Because back in the day, they were smaller and you could have them as a pool toy, bathtub toy, beach, go along, whatever. You could do what you wanted to do. But as a HasLabber, are you, age 25 to 50 gonna hop in the bathtub and play with that thing? Are you gonna bring it out to the pool with your kids? Unless you're a photographer or just the coolest dad ever that does that stuff. Probably not, right? So no, yeah, they want the flyers and the ground vehicles because they're cheaper and easier to build. Will lend more to the narratives they're putting out there in their photos and things like that. That's not to say you won't maybe ever get a boat of some sort, but it's just to say it's not on their priority list. So Sky Patrol was a bunch of airborne troopers, and Skullfrog, I know you want to hear this, right? Right now we're getting airborne already, and airborne is a part of Sky Patrol. Imagine airborne jumping in with his own squad of jumpers, right? And that's not even including guys like Crazy Legs and Ripcord in here, but you got airborne, airwave, altitude, drop zone, skydive, and static line, right? Bunch of new drop troops. I can easily see that coming to fruition at some point in the line, 3-4 years down there. But I'm just saying, we could get paratroopers at any point. There's a lot of them out there. A lot more than the casual observer or whatever think. I'm going to mention this one, bearing in mind that if the Crow worked for Hasbro and worked in the boardroom, of course, I would change some of the friggin' names to these units, right? But there would be some sort of shout out and public announcement that these characters came from that line. And you wouldn't deviate from the image as much or the themes of the line. It's just Eco Warriors is another one that they could do, right? Eco Warriors was Flint, Clean Sweep, Ozone, Barbecue, Deep Six, and if there was more of them, I stopped researching it because these were the squirty toys, late 80s, early 90s, that I was just annoyed by, right? Nickelodeon Joes, I called them. But Eco Warriors is another line available to them. Maybe they do one of the Cobra monstrosities. Oh, wait, they have the Mole Rat. If you look back at that Eco Warrior line, you'll find the I think it's Toxo Zombie Viper or something like that. And it is essentially the Mole Rat. So there you go. Already been in there, as far as I see it. Tell me I'm wrong. It's fine. Fight me in the comments. I'll top out. Like if you swing harder than I do in the comments from the place of right, great. I'll top out because I'm always learning stuff about Joe. But to me, that's where Mole Rat came from, right? So I don't know. Was there a video somebody else did explaining that? The DEF. This is one I'm going to practice my Joes with a little bit for my end state thing. I have a re-envisioning of what the DEF should be and who's on it. And yeah, their original roster kind of goes with it. But back in the late 80s, like I said in my earlier video, these were the Joes assigned to go target this new Cobra affiliate threat, the headhunter. Ooh, big drug dealer. Here, kid, have some marijuana. No, I just bought some. Fuck. Anyways, yeah, so the DEF is somewhere that I could see Hasbro going, but you're not going to call it the drug elimination force, but something. You could put a task force together for that, Hasbro, for sure. Oh, who's in it? Bulletproof Cutter, Mutton Junkyard, Shockwave. Okay, for starts. Yeah. Mutton Junkyard and Shockwave. And a guy named Bulletproof. I totally understand that. That's like what I've got going on over here as I'm setting up my shelf again. And now that I'm just doing just exclusive Joe shelves and not Cobra because everything's going to go into the display when I'm done. But yeah, Shockwave, Mutt, Junkyard, and I've got Wolf Spider. Kind of filling out my positions there to remind me that I want to do a DEF. Yeah, I do. I want to do a DEF at some point. I just won't call it that. Battle Core. Yeah, we're only 12 deep right now, guys. We still have 8 more after this, I think. Battle Core has one of the longest rosters. I'm just going to read it out. So I converge Battle Core and Battle Force were just more stuff that the company was playing with at the time, with trying to rebrand Joe to a new market. Maybe give it a new name. Maybe that'll sell toys. Who knows? But yeah. Nothing stuck, but it included Backblast, Barricade, Bazooka, Beachhead, Bulletproof, Colonel Courage, Dial Tone, Cross Country, Duke, Frostbite, Flint, General Flag, Gung Ho, Iceberg, Keel Haul, Lifeline, Long Arm, Mace, Leatherneck, Law, Outback, Muskrat, Mutton Junkyard, Roadblock, Stalker, Snowstorm, Wetsuit, Wild Bill, Shipwreck, Wind Chill, and of course, Ice Cream Soldier. If you think the Starduster was the biggest shock they could pull out of their sleeve, then I present to you Ice Cream Soldier. Perhaps. Number 13, Mega Marines. Not going to get into it. It was stupid. It was almost like trying to combine the most extreme, horrible B-movie, action movie character with a bit of He-Man, bit of Joe. Blast Off, Clutch, Gung Ho, and Mirage were the ones I pulled out of that. Available lane. Lane available. That's tank breaching. Hey, lane 50% means I've almost cleared all the lines. You can start stacking. 75%, 100% clear. Go. Yeah. Star Brigade. Star Brigade came out late in the line. Joe in space. It was terrible. It looked terrible. It had a lot of terrible ideas. And this is my opinion. If there's anybody here who started with the Star Brigade line, I sincerely apologize. But it had quite the roster, and it went on for a couple of iterations. And before we say, nope, that's too stupid, have we already forgotten that there was a Space Force in development recently? Trump talked about it. I don't know. They made a Netflix series starring Steve Carell, but a Space Force with the title Star Brigade using Countdown, Duke, Effects, Heavy Duty, Ozone, Gears, Payload, Roadblock, Space Shot, Robo Joe. That's another one. Robo Joe. Rock and Roll, Hawk, Sci-Fi, of course. But then they drag in a few, and some of these might be villains, but we get some aliens like Predacon. I wonder what inspired Predacon. No idea. Carcass and Lobomax. Yeah, could we do that? I think they'd save these ones to the very last. Could you go to Street Fighter? Could we get a G.I. Joe classified version of Ryu, Ken, Chun-Li, Guile, Blanca, Bison, Edward, Honda, Dalzim, Zangief, Vega, Bullseye, and Sagat? Possibly. Possibly. It's another lane open. Oh, we're almost through it. Stop yawning. Fast forward or don't bother showing up, right? That's the Crow way. Fast forward or don't show up. Read the title. Move on. The big one that I saw, some of these I've been promoting, and I realized I've got more grounds than I ever thought I did. Little Crow vanity shining through on calling the ball right. While I continue to work on my CAD pad on my Steeler dry fit stuff, which is really just Desert Commando Snake Eyes repaint, I will tell you that I have been saying we need more desert troops and more Arctic troops. Well, at some point in this toy line, the mail-away orders seemed to agree with that premise, and you were able to buy the Arctic Commando pack. It was a 4-pack. And it included DJ, Snow Serpent, Stalker, and Sub-Zero, all Arctic troops. So, could Hasbro count that as one of the lines they need to continue for classified? Yeah, I think there's now a little bit more weight to that argument. It's not the strongest argument I've made, but it's another file in the briefcase, right? What about copter pilots? Now, this goes with the Sky Patrol. I realize you could tack the two together, but it would also make sense in that HasLab projects. Okay, if you bought into the Dragonfly and you were following, there's been some tier release changes with Dragonfly, and they explain Crazy Legs and Night Force Ripcord. All these Sky Pilots and everybody that we want. Originally, there was a Steel Brigade pilot that was supposed to be thrown in there, a variant Steel Brigade pilot. Now, Steel Brigade, do I have them in here? I do. Steel Brigade is one that I haven't mentioned, and I'm going to just quickly say Arctic Commandos, Desert Commandos, Jungle Commandos could all fall under new types of Steel Brigade troops. Same as naval, like diving commandos, things like that. So, copter pilots, though, could fall under the new Sky Patrol or Sky Force or whatever they wanted to call it. It was just a 2-pack of different chopper pilots. So, if you had Tiger Force and regular Dragonfly and you bought more Dragonflies, well, eventually you're just repeating Wild Bill, and you can only have for Condo so many times. And then you need pilots. So, you got Interrogator and Major Altitude in that 2-pack. Could see them. Rapid Deployment 3-pack. Okay, this is a big one for me in the Army. That's basically QRF, Quick Reaction Force, which every Army has some form of when they're on operation. Guys who, when shit goes wrong, we go storming in and lend assistance. Quick Reaction Force. So their idea of a rapid deployment consisted of a mail order pack that included Fast Draw, Repeater, and Shockwave. We could do the rapid deployment. Oh God, I've got to mention this one and this one. So Shadow Ninja was the other one I was talking about. It was different than Ninja Force. It had a slightly different roster, but the same. But I counted it as a different one. It was Bushido, Night Creeper, Nunchuck, Slice, Snake Eyes, and Storm Shadow. Now, remembering, sorry, I think this was the one we had the Storm Shadow from early in the line, the Winter Storm Shadow. Not 100%, but either way. 2 ninja options, really. I think they would just merge them into one. But again, we have Nunchuck, we have Storm Shadow, we have Snake Eyes, Red Ninja. We're going to get more at some point. You can just taste it. The last one's just a joke, guys, but it is a legit option on the friggin' table for Hasbro. Dino Hunters. There was 2 of them. It was Ambush and Lowlight. Got transitioned over to a point where G.I. Joe was more like Jurassic Park than anything. And really, you could slam that, but remember, we don't have a Joel Colton, and we don't have earlier, like the old 60s, 50s, and 70s, whatever line. Dino hunting is not a reach. Neither are the troglodyte, like cavemen, that they fought when, you know, the hippie peace and love movement was affecting the Joe line and they needed to step out of fighting warlike soldiers and go into an action force and mission base. There was threats there that we haven't seen that we could see in this line. So I was just going to share a couple of quick points on this and sum it up for the day because that's enough. The custom tips, I just wanted to show you guys. If you're going to get into disassembling G.I. Joes and do conversions and things like that, I'm just going to grab a couple of examples here. So here we have our friend. Most of us know this guy just like this guy. It's Falcone, right? And you'll notice that ball joint on his head. It is like a gear shifter. It's like a standard transmission Datsun gear shifter. It's in the little housing. It's got a complete housing and it shifts within it, right? Just like that. Just like, hey, first, second, third, reverse. Okay, so we've got that. And you notice the size of that ball. Okay, Desert Commando Snake Eyes right here, which I'm doing with Steeler. You notice the difference. It's a different ball. Now, that's not his head. Oh, it is his neck joint. Yeah, I did leave his neck joint on there, I believe. His neck joint. But what I'm trying to get at is there's a variety of different ones, okay? And you see this one operates differently and it has the swivel neck. They both have swiveling necks. It's just 2 different approaches to this figure. This is where Hasbro has other templates with like Marvel Legends and other things that they're doing. And you can see these cross parts. So if you think it's easy to just kit bash, it's not always. You have to find ways around it, like including how to swap these posts out if you need to, or which necks are compatible with which, or are you prepared to do conversions to heads, things like that. So that is a thing I brought up. I was talking to Aaron, the toy answer, the other day, and I was showing him some of the things I've discovered on here. And one thing I keep forgetting to share with you guys, if you'll notice on this, let's see if I can find. Do I have one that's set out? Yeah, right here. All right, this is just a spare torso and hip set that I have from my Snake Eyes Origins Storm Shadow, which I'm converting into other parts to other places, basically. But if you look, I have taken the details right off of the waistline pant piece, because that's just a slip-on piece of rubber that you can slide off, just like the vests and everything else when they're heated, okay? So when you're doing conversions like that, I mean, it's good to discover these things. It's rewarding. I share them because I realize, I assume, being new at it, everybody knows everything. But then I showed Aaron that, and he didn't know about that. So I was like, oh, I'll share that on this one. My favorite one was stripping down a Viper. As you guys know, I'm going to tackle headhunters and do some crazy stuff there. It's going to be a different concept, but I had to strip down a few things that I'm not really wanting, which was my Python Patrol troops. And there's two of them, relax, and I'm not really changing them that much at all. And a couple of Vipers that I only, I'm not a big guy for Vipers. I like the other aspects of Cobra collecting. But whose torso do you think is under that vest? It is a bulky vest. It's hard to peek in there, but you get some clues. You get a t-shirt and you get a collar. And Aaron, I think he guessed wrong when I asked him last night, and it's fine. But the collar was a big giveaway. Underneath every Viper is a Duke. Everybody's got a Duke, right? And Aaron's got lots of Dukes, right? So Duke, that's what's underneath your Viper. So when I'm collecting torsos and compatible pieces to make new characters, because what I'm doing right now is I'm looking down that 82 to 94 line, and I'm picking names, and I'm going through guys like Loki Wartooth, or my own sense of how to do a conversion and scratch build or create things. And I'm going to make my Joes. I'll make them for my end states or my RDC or something, or maybe I'll make one of these 20 some odd friggin' lines I have available to them. But that's just it. It's the open world, right? But is Hasbro classified G.I. Joe going to come to an end anytime soon? Not by a lack of options, guys. Completing the original character line it's phase one of endless phases. Don't worry about it. Hey, don't forget that like, share, subscribe thing I always forget to talk about. Oh, there it is. That. And like I said, stay tuned for more stuff, but not today, after I come back from the surgery. And it was good to talk to you guys again, but I'm going to take that break again. So we'll see you next time when I present a figure or something. But that's it for Hot Mics for today.